this is Bryan Hogue. Welcome to Chiller Night Live. We're from 8 p.m. Eastern Time until 9 p.m. We'll talk about all things horror, science fiction, paranormal related. Basically anything that can be encompassed under the Chiller Night mantle. And Renee is the first chat of the night. Renee says, good evening, Chiller Night Theater Die-Hard faithful. It's now time for our awesome live Terror Taco Tuesday show with zombie apocalypse escape room extraordinaire horror sci-fi fantasy host Jack Shadow. Wow, that is quite a workout on the old lungs. Well, thank you, Renee. Good to have you back. We missed you last week. Stephanie says, hey, y'all. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for joining us. Paul says, hey there, my brother. How are you and Ava tonight? How is my Chiller family doing? You know the drill. We are doing fantastic, Paul. Thank you for joining us. Dee says, hi, everyone. Hey, Dee, thanks for joining us. Renee says, Bryan Hogue. Oh, there was a ... after Jack Shadow, ... Bryan Hogue. So buckle up, Buttercup. Yeah. And put on your tinfoil aluminum hats. This is the way to horror and ufology. I like that. Ooh, very cool. All right. Thank you, Renee. And Paul says, hey there, Renee. All right. Tom says, boom. All right, Tom, thanks for joining us. Tonight's topic. Al says, hi, everyone. It's Mummy Night. You're darn right it is, Al. Thanks for joining us. It is Mummy Night. All right, the topic of the night. Yeah, we're going to talk about the mummy. What an interesting creature. Monster. Not quite a zombie. It's a resurrected, much more powerful than a zombie because he's got magic involved. At least in the first movie with Boris Karloff in 1932, Universal, which you see here and here. This is what Tom. I'll bring this up in the front. You guys have seen that back here for the last about 4 years. But this, of course, that's the 3D version of this poster here that Tom was kind enough to send me back in the early days of COVID. I remember getting this in the mail. But this is kind of cool. This is a 3D. I think you can see that. His head does come off. I didn't break it. But it's kind of, yeah, I guess it's for easier storage and packing up. Which way does it go? All right, but that's pretty cool. It'd be cooler if I could get his head back on. There we go. But that's really neat. It's got some weight to it, too. Let's see. Roger says, good evening, Brian. Good evening, Roger. Paul says, I want the shirt, Brian. Ha! So do I. It was pretty cool. I like Tales from the Crypt. All right. Try to get that back here where it's not completely blocking Patty's Jack Shadow figure that she sent me, and you can still see it. Let's see. Renee says, totally awesome t-shirt, Bryan Hogue. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate it. Bonehead says, hey, Bonehead, thank you for joining us. He didn't say that. He said, hello, Chiller Night crew, and Brian, I want my mummy. All right. Well, let's hope you get your fill of mumminess tonight on this episode. John says, so let's unwrap this subject and see what happens. He says, add drum snares. Oh no, how about this one? See, I don't know if that's set so you guys can hear it or not, but anyways, Dee says, that is awesome. I think so, that's pretty cool. Paul says, Dr. Jack and Manos therapy session is open. It is open indeed. Come one, come all. Let us speak of mummy. Brian says, hello all. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining us. Kevin says, hello, mate. Kevin here. How are you doing? Doing fantastic. And thank you for joining us. Hope you had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. Anybody do much? I got to admit, we didn't go out and do much. It used to be such a huge day for us. I mean, even before I met Ava, it was always such a huge, huge day for me. And then when Ava and I met, man, we used to, I'd take work off to go out for St. Patrick's Day. And the day after, typically. unless I was working like the second shift. But I would always take that day off. That was a big deal for a long time. And then after things kind of changed for us after we moved where we currently live. We just don't go out like that anymore. I don't miss it, but it was fun. Let's see, catch up a little bit. Paul says, was Karloff the original mummy? He did play the mummy in 1932's. Have it here, the old VHS. Pretty cool. He was the mummy Imhotep. Let's see. Glad to hear from you. Let me get caught up a little bit. Sorry, folks, if I'm skipping anybody. It's not intending to. My favorite mummy movie is with Brendan Fraser. Oh, you like the newer? I say newer. In the 2000 or late 90s with Universal. Still Universal. John Wayne says, hello, everyone. What do mummies and gifts in heaven? Oh, gifts have in common. Where did I get gifts in heaven? Gifts. What do mummies and gifts have in common? You have to unwrap them. That you do. That you do. Well, thank you for joining us, SBC, a.k.a. John Wayne. Let's see. Bonus says, please don't hate me, but I've never really liked the mummy movies. No, they're not for everyone. I get that. It's a different. It's not like the Wolfman or something. Although Tom begs to differ, he says sacrilege, Bone. Sacrilege. So I guess I don't know. To me, when I was a kid, and I'll go over. We'll be, of course, I'll be pulling up pictures of the old Aurora model kit and the vintage Ben Cooper Halloween costume and all that good stuff from my childhood. I'll be drudging all that stuff up. I just thought of the mummy as just one of the other monsters. That's all, even though he had an Egyptian theme to him. When you were a kid, you just knew him as one of the monsters, because the later movies with in the 40s with Lon Chaney Jr., it did bring him over to the United States, and that's where the setting of the movies were, for the most part, as far as I can remember. So he was just another monster, Stephanie says, I relaxed all day on St. Patrick's Day. By the way, I'm on vacation this week. Ah, cool. Well, hopefully you were able to, whether you get away or it's a staycation, just hope you get some relaxation in on your vacation. Bonin says, people drink alcohol for just about anything, Miss Renee, LOL. Kevin says, okay, over in the heartland there. Had a lovely St. Patrick's Day, mate. Did you ever see the horror classic Patrick 1978? No, I never have. I don't think I have. Doesn't come to mind, Kevin. Read 1812:1. Do you believe the curse of the mummy was real? I don't. I wouldn't have enough about it to convince me that it was. Although it did really help Universal's when the Mummy was coming out in 1932. Not too long before that, maybe 10 years before that or something like that, was all the hoo-ha about the finding of the tomb of King Tut and the curse of King Tut and all that was still kind of a big deal, and that played pretty well when the Mummy came out in 1932, because that was still kind of fresh, because of course the curse from Imhotep was released in the movie, and just never liked them. Bonehead says, Tom, Bonehead's not backing down. He says, I'm sorry, Tom, I just never liked them. So referred to the Mummy movies. Renee says the Mummy cartoon, 2001, 2 seasons. Hey, I've never heard of the Mummy cartoon, so that's a new one for me. Tom says, I have the original in 16mm, one of my favorite reels to run. Oh, really? That's cool. Deborah says, hey, Deborah, how you doing there tonight? Good evening, Chiller Thrillers. good evening, Deborah. Hope you are doing well. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Renee has a band-aid and a little little face there. It doesn't look like it's doing too well. Did you go out on St. Patrick's Day, Renee? Is that what that's about? Brian says, Robot versus Aztec Money made in Mexico in the 1960s. Yeah, that's a pretty famous title. I can't say I remember. I'm sure I've seen it, but I need a lot of reminding on that one. Let's see. Bonin says, I always thought the mummy was a body cast because he was so uncoordinated and discombobulated, so he just didn't seem too scary. I get that. I do get that. Because he was slow moving. He just kind of lurched around. The mummy. Here's the next one in the group. Is the Mummy's Hand. It starred Tom Tyler. Now the weird thing is in this one here, Tom Tyler. Some of you I've seen here before were old Western buffs. You all like the old Western movies. Tom Tyler played in the Westerns, or if you're a superhero, fan, and if you know anything about the old serials back in the day, he played Captain Marvel, the Shazam character. Tom Tyler did play the Mummy in The Mummy's Hand, and Universal did a neat thing in that movie. I've mentioned here before, and it's very fitting that I mention here again on tonight's episode. They darkened out his eyes in post-production, so he looked a lot more menacing, a lot more dead, and it was a really weird effect. It was just cool to look at, rather than seeing an actual intact eyeball in the socket. So John Wayne says, Brian says, I always felt that if you could not outrun the mummy, you deserved what you got. Yeah, unless he was like Jason or something, where you just see him slow, and then they're running, and somehow he ends up in front of them. So who knows? John Wayne says, St. Patrick's Day is known here in Germany, but it's hardly celebrated. Just a few Irish people hang out in the pubs and drink as usual. LOL. Cool. Renee says, The Mummy Returns, starring The Rock, sucked. I did not see those. I'll admit I didn't see them. I know that they had the spin-offs from The Mummy with the Scorpion King and all that. Tom says, running it on a projector really adds to the movie. Much different experience than on a TV. I bet so. I think that would be really cool to see, to be in the room with the projector and have that viewing experience. Dee says, I really enjoy the Brendan Fraser remake too. I think they paid proper homage to the original film, researched the original well, and I think it did justice in running the storyline. Neat perspective there. Renee says, Egyptian Pharaoh King Akhenaten is an extraterrestrial alien. Could be. I have heard some stuff about the ETs, the extraterrestrials, in ancient Egypt. John says the Hammer Mummy movies were both great and very unique spirit of suspense added to the story. Yeah, the Hammer movies were really cool. Of course, Christopher Lee starred as the Mummy, and then you had Peter Cushing as the Professor John Banning, the hero of the movie. They were often, adversaries, Count Dracula, Van Helsing, or Dr. Frankenstein and the monster. But in this movie, they played once again, the dynamic duel of terror for the Hammer movies anyways. That was the Mummy in this movie seemed a lot more menacing, a lot more dangerous. Like he could cover a lot more distance and get you and run right through a door and stuff. And get shot with a shotgun. Kevin says, Brian, I'm watching the Monster Channel. It's a channel for classic horror and horror hosts. Ah, that sounds cool, Kevin. That sounds really cool. Paul says, according to the actual opening of the King Tut tomb, yes, it was to a point. What, with the curse? Bonus says, well, SBC, it's a day to enjoy eating corned beef and cabbage. I didn't get into the drinking green beer, though. Yeah, I didn't have any. I haven't had any alcohol for a long, long time. So I just didn't get it. Used to. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against it, but I just didn't. Unless I'm going out and having the green beer and the shots of whiskey. Um, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna sit at home and do it. So let's see. Let me get caught up a little bit here. Let's see. Boy, I am really, really far behind. Boy, you guys are really, really participating. That's very awesome. Bonus says Frankenstein lurched too, but he didn't need to bandaged up, so I figured he wasn't accident prone. You suppose Mummy was bumped up a bit. Maybe that's why he did that. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Let me get rid of the hammer one here. That's a I don't know. I mean, it's a creepy looking monster, especially that one eye. Lon Chaney Jr. when he played him, he had just that one eye. The one eye was covered. Okay, so we had Boris Karloff, of course, played the Mummy, the original Mummy, Imhotep, in 1932. We had Tom Tyler in what year was that? Gosh, I didn't write right here. 1940 for the Mummy's Hand, and then we have the Mummy's Tomb. That's when Lon Chaney Jr. started playing them. Now, from the Mummy's Hand and the Lon Chaney Jr. movies, it was Karis the Mummy. Karis was not Imhotep yet. They did use, Universal used their own footage for the new Mummy movie, The Mummy's Hand. And so from that point on, the Mummy was Karis. So, and that was The Mummy's Tomb in 1942 with Lon Chaney Jr. And The Mummy's Ghost in 1944. They had two of them in 1944 with Lon Chaney Jr. Mummy's Ghost and The Mummy's Curse, which was the last one. Now, Karis the Mummy, I bring that up because there's Karis the Mummy right here. But in the Hammer movie, it's also Karis the Mummy. So they did take that mummy and put him in the movie there. At least his background and the character's name. Renee says, I'm actually sick with the flu. Oh, you were not talking about St. Patrick's Day being hungover. You were sick with the flu the second time this year. Got doxycycline, antibiotics, and promethazine. I was never good at pronouncing medicines, as you were all becoming aware. Cough syrup, I can say that. Luckily, it's my day off. Well, that's good. Well, hopefully that fixes you right up. I must confess, I love all the Mummy movies, Stephanie says. And she also says, get well, Renee. Yes, get well soon. Brian says, Roku Channel 300 is running all the Universal Mummy movies. Oh, that's cool. Sometimes you can find those old... oh, that's neat, on Roku Channel. All right, and then Peacock sometimes plays a lot of the Universals, so check it out. I don't know. I can't tell you if they're on there right now, but I have seen them on there. Renee says, I like Stargate with Kurt Russell. But you did not like Scorpion King. Can't fault you there. Paul says they actually had some clay pots where food was supposed to be. Oh, that's cool. In the King Tut's tomb. Kevin says, how is Jack Shadow doing, mate? Jack Shadow is doing fantastic, and he is already chomping at the bit to get at it in this year's Jack Shadow's House of Terror Haunted House. I know it's early for every normal person out there, but fortunately, we don't have a lot of normal people here viewing this tonight. So I'm sure you would be just as excited as I am to see that Jack Shadow in the House of Terror Haunted House. Bonus says, I loved corned beef and cabbage. Oh, yes. Yes, that is fantastic. Tom says, Scorpion King, blue chunks. You liked it that much, huh? Paul says the golden headdress mask, very cool. Let's see. Let me get up here. Let me get up here. And let's see. Bruce Campbell looked like Elvis. I'm just trying to let me get caught up here a little bit. Let's see. John Wayne said last week I missed almost everything. You changed the time over there. Ah, that's right. Did we? I didn't even notice that. Let's see. Hey, Doc Dredd, Dr. Dredd Murray. Pluto is showing 24/7 Universal Studios monsters. Oh, cool. All right, for those of you who have the Pluto channel, Doc says they are having 24/7 Universal Studio monsters. Very cool. Renee says, "Oh, neat Jack Shadow poster." Jack's the man. Doc says, "Greetings, Brian and all." Hey, Doc, thanks for joining us tonight. Much appreciated. We're talking about the Mummy tonight. SBC says, "I don't know who changed it, but it caught me unawares as well." What, the name? Your name, John Wayne? Is that it? Tara Vincent, Kevin says, "Tara Vincent, say good evening, LOL." All right. Thank you, Tara Vincent. Much appreciated. D says, "The Scorpion King was The Rock's very first acting gig, and sadly, it showed." John Wayne says, "Speaking of Mumine, Mumine, does anyone here believe that the pyramid was built as a tomb for a pharaoh, as is generally claimed?" I don't know. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on that? I don't know what. You hear so much stuff about the... especially if you've been a fan of Ancient Aliens, oh boy, you don't know what to think there. Paul says, "I saw the artifacts at the History Museum here in D.C., Brian." Very cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. No, Brian, the time changed. Let's see. Renee says, "Mummy has to be the weakest character. He walks too slow, and if you unravel all of his bandages, he loses his powers." Does he? I don't know, Renee, about that, because when Imhotep became his other character in The Mummy with Boris Karloff, he didn't have the bandages on at that point. He discarded his bandages, he did. When he was what was the name? Ardith Bay. And he was very powerful at that point. He could resurrect, he could have resurrected the princess mummy, but he chose not to until he got the soul from the reincarnated version of the princess and all that. But he did have power. He could kill you from a distance without even touching you, just with his power. So I don't know, but I know what you mean, because we never see that mummy. We always see the slow lumbering. Even the Karloff or the Lon Chaney Jr. mummy. He had his one arm wrapped up. He had one eye all destroyed and damaged, and he just had the one, the arm up like this. And he does not seem very menacing. So I would like to see. I don't know. I do think that the Hammer movie did a better job at portraying his strength. Like he was something to be, afraid of. By far, Tom says, by far the worst thing about the Scorpion King was the terrible visual effects. Yeah. Yeah. That was in the very early days of the computer or CGI. Al says, "Hey, whoever said the movie Bubba Hotep about an elderly and living Elvis and a black JFK fight a mummy in a nursing home." Is that what they were talking about with Bruce Campbell? So the mummy was naked now. Wow, she says. Well, he had a robe on. So maybe he got tired of having nothing on and put a robe on. John says, The Mummy is my least favorite of the classic monsters. I'm seeing that in here. You know, and I totally get that. I totally get that. Out of all the monsters, he did seem to be, I mean, he didn't, I mean, with the exception of the original, this mummy actually did have power, and he could very easily kill his adversaries. Like I said, he didn't even have to touch them. He didn't have to choke them. He didn't have to do any of that because he had magic. It was more of online with Dracula in a way. I mean, as far as the magic part aspect of it goes, and the reincarnation of his long lost love, that aspect of it was a lot different than what you've seen in the other movies. Somewhat. Kyrus, you still had that reincarnation aspect of it. Beverly says, good evening. Hey, Beverly, thanks for joining us. Let's see. Stephanie says, hey, Renee, I think that happened one time in the Monster Squad when the arrow caught us rapping. Ah! yeah, that might have happened. I forget how they... Yeah, I have no doubt that occurred. John Wayne says, I don't think the pyramid could have been completed in the lifetime of the pharaohs. Makes you wonder. John says, Doc Dredd said, I'll just say Doc Dredd. Everyone knows, we all know you as Doc Dredd on here. I agree, Hammer Mummy more menacing, yes. And with Christopher Lee, a very imposing size fellow playing him. But it says, I'm sure with all the old dry bandages, he'd light up like a Zippo if you threw spark at him. Yeah, I probably would. Better be fireproof. Al says, hey, anyone see the movie Bubba Hotep with an elderly Elvis? Oh, I think I read that. Monster Squad, I binge watched that on Tubi, LOL, good series. Oh, yeah, you had mentioned that a few weeks ago, Renee, and I thought you were talking about the Monster Squad movie. I didn't realize, Monster Squad, wasn't that the name of the movie back in the 80s? I hadn't realized that there was a series called that. Bunny says, with a name like Mummy, you know, that just don't sound frightening now. No, it doesn't really. Not when you look at the rest of them. John Wayne says, I like the Mummy, but he's not really a monster, more of a mix of a zombie and vampire. Deborah says, I think we should all like them all. We don't love them because they're stronger, faster, whatever. We love them because they're monsters. Ah, what a statement. No truer statement could ever be said here tonight, Deborah. Yes. That's right, darn it. And I'm going to be showing some of this stuff from old when I was. Oh, first of all, I gotta show the old book cover. Remember the old Crestwood House books? Well, there's the Mummy cover. Every week I got to put the cover up of the monster that we're talking about. Okay, here's some stuff I had as a kid. The old Jigglers. Remember the old rubber monsters from Ben Cooper? I think it were Ben Cooper. The same ones who made the costumes. Ben Cooper vintage Halloween costume there. And of course, the Aurora monster models. I'm sure we all had our Aurora monster model kits as a kid. And these I did have. Now, I didn't have the Mummy, but I did have some of these Bendhams. I've been showing you those throughout the weeks as we've been discussing the monsters. Had Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature, King Kong, but I don't think I had the Mummy. Don't remember having him. And, of course, I had the Jiggler up here. Oh, here's what I did. But the Mummy, remember these back in the early 70s? They had these coming out. The Super Monsters. Super Monsters. I don't know why they didn't put them in a more frightening looking card package instead of this purplish pink color. But there was the Mummy nonetheless. I did have a few of these guys. I don't remember if I had the Mummy or not. So But yeah, just some of this stuff here I figured I'd put up. Did I put up the model? Yeah, I put up the model. All right, so just a little brisk walk down Monster Memory Lane. Pat Sylvan 1 says, just a warning, I'm currently working, so I'm ghosting here tonight. All right, Patty, thanks for joining us. We're speaking about The Mummy. Let's see. Oh, neat, jigglers, Renee says. Yes. Those were so cool as a kid. Let's see. Oh, rad monster models, Renee says. Who's jiggling? That sounds exciting, Bonin says. Well, The Mummy is tonight. You guys remember those? I have a Frankenstein here somewhere from the early 70s. I saw them on eBay. I had to have them. Eventually, I'm going to get all the old books and the jigglers and probably the Bendhams. I'll get all the monster toys and books and all that I had as a kid. And Al says I had the Aurora model kit of the Mummy. Ah, okay, cool. I had Dracula. I don't remember ever having the Mummy. I don't think I had the Mummy, but I had Dracula and the Planet of the Apes. Bendham rocks. Renee says, oh wow, Super Monster's awesome. John Wayne says, toys used to be so much better. Yeah, maybe they did. I don't know about the quality. I remember, you'd take them out and you'd bend them a few times and they'd just break. They'd just pop right off. The quality was horrible in those, these ones right here. I do remember that because we were always like having to put their arms back on. You didn't really have to do it that much with the Migos, the superheroes, but with these things, they were like a kind of like a cheap, version of those. Stephanie says, I think nowadays the only way you get to wear a mummy costume is by using toilet paper. Yeah, hey, dual purpose. After you trick or treat, you can take it off and TP the neighbor's house. Let's see. Take care, Pat. Let's see. Renee says, yeah, I remember the models in the 70s, grammar, middle school. Oh, the 70s it was so cool with this stuff. It really was. Bonus says, well, Miss Stephanie, if that's the case, he always got something to wipe away your fears or anything else you need. The Mummy. He's just multi-purpose monster. Let's see. We covered there are movies, of course, with the Mummy that I was talking about. The last one I mentioned was from 1959, the Hammer movie, and then you guys were talking about. Here's the order: The Mummy, 1932; The Mummy's Hand, 1940; The Mummy's Tomb, 1942; The Mummy's Ghost, 1944; The Mummy's Curse, 1944; Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, 1955. Put that in there. And then apparently there was a series, Stephen Sommers series from 99 to 2008. I don't know what that was, but is that the movies? Maybe that must be the set of movies, The Mummy, that came out in 1999 with Yeah, the Stephen Sommers was the director on that. Okay, with Brendan Fraser. The Mummy Returns in 2001. The Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor in 2008. And then apparently they were going to do a fourth film, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, was after it was released. They wanted to do another one, but the fourth film was canceled. Then they went to the Scorpion's King spin-off series, The Scorpion King, 2002, Scorpion King 2, Rise of the Warrior in 2008, Scorpion King 3, Battle for Redemption, 2012. I had no idea they made this many Scorpion King movies. Scorpion King 4, Quest for Power, 2015. The Scorpion King Book of Souls 2018. My goodness, they made more Scorpion King movies than The Mummy, it looks like. All right, to each his own. To each his own. Put the chat back up here. Stretch Armstrong, best toy ever, PBR says. Yeah, I remember that. And I had his nemesis, the Stretch Monster. I remember him. He kind of looked like a mix of the Abomination from the Hulk's enemy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Kind of a neat-looking fellow. Paul says, hey, brother, I know that human could not have built the pyramids without off-planet help at that point in human history. We were just too damn stupid. I don't know. I'm not the one that could make that assessment very accurately, I can tell you that. I don't know. I don't know what our capabilities were with architecture, but it does seem odd that we could build something of that magnitude. Not really necessarily of that magnitude, but I guess if you're looking at the location of the pyramids, you know, I don't know where they got these huge stones. I don't know how they, you know, formed them and moved them to that magnitude. I don't know. It is very interesting, though. Many theories out there. John says, FYI, the Monster Squad was a Saturday morning show with Dracula and Frankenstein's monster battling bad guys with the help from a security guard. And the security guard was played by Fred Grand. Fred Grand. Monster Squad, is that the old, I mean, you talking about the old cartoon, or am I thinking of something like Groovy Ghoulies or something? I remember there was a monster cartoon way back when I was a kid. I don't know if this is what you're talking about or if that was something else. Renee says, Abbott and Costello, Mummy, who's on first? Abbott and Costello never met Bigfoot or Manos, Paul says. Aha! You got them there. John Wayne says, time for them to make a new Mummy movie. Bunny says, my Stretch Armstrong toy got caught using performance-enhancing aids and got suspended. Anyone see the Tom Cruise Mummy movie or play the video game? Patty says. I did see the Tom Cruise one. I don't remember it much. I mean, it seemed like more of a neat sci-fi action movie, I think. You know, like it didn't, you know, it didn't seem like a horror movie, but it seemed like more of a, I guess maybe leaning more on the sci-fi action part of it. Entertaining, you know, if you're looking for just a family entertaining movie to watch, I think that fits the bill. Renee says, I love the $6 Million Man Dolly action figure. I had that. Remember the Bigfoot? Remember the bionic Bigfoot that he had? His torso chest piece popped off and his arm, I think his arm came off, the bionic Bigfoot, because that's what he did in the movie. He got his arm ripped off. Stephanie says, some people say the aliens build the pyramids. What do you guys think? I think some of you are very inclined to believe that one. They built the pyramids and were paid for it in beer, grain, and tax cuts. Is that right, Patty? Renee says, yes, extraterrestrial aliens did build the pyramids. I hope we find out in our lifetime. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, I have a feeling we're going to find out quite a bit in our lifetime. So, why don't we just add that to it? Patty says, the Monster Squad was a live-action movie. It was a live-action movie, yes. That's what I thought that they were talking about. But apparently there's a series also called Monster Squad. So that's kind of cool. Now, I just wonder if that was like the old, like an old 70s cartoon. Because I have a vague memory of something like that. Let's see. John Wayne says, the pyramids have always fascinated me, even before I read Chariots of the Gods. They mention that quite a bit on Ancient Aliens. That book there. John says, Fred Grandy went on to star in the original Death Race 2000 movie before landing the role of Purser Gopher Smith on the Love Boat series. Grandy went on to be a member of the U.S. House of Representatives for Iowa. Oh, wow. Yeah, I cannot picture that guy. So I cannot picture him in my head whatsoever. But that's interesting. Renee says, Monster Squad is similar to Filmation's The Ghostbusters 1975, starring Larry Stoich and Forrest Tucker from F Troop. I have a vague memory of that one. Let's see. Paul says, hey there, my family got to go help Mom get ready for bed. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Call you tomorrow after 4. Be safe out there, my family. Love you all. All right, Paul, thanks for joining us tonight. And you have a fantastic evening. Renee says, in the style Filmation and Sid and Marty Krofft. I used to love the Filmation and Sid and Marty Krofft shows on Saturday mornings. Stephanie says, this week is my movie night on Friday after tonight, and I'm thinking about a mummy movie that day to watch. Cool. Let us know which one you pick. Al says, Brian, you're thinking of Monster Squad, the 1976 live-action Saturday morning series. It had Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman. That must be it, but I'm also thinking there was another, maybe there was I know, yeah, but there was also an animated one. Maybe, was it the Groovy Ghoulies? That might have been it, too. That might have been it. There were several of the monster-themed shows on at that time. Monster Squad 1976 TV series, Renee says. Bonus says, well, whoever built those pyramids did a good job. Not one of them's ever been condemned or fallen down. Yeah, they all seem to be, up the code standards in Egypt, so that's good. PBR says, I remember the Bionic Man, Bionic Woman, the Bionic Dog, but not the Bionic Bigfoot. Oh, really? Yep, I remember Bionic Bigfoot and Maskatron. Remember the Maskatron? I don't know if they called him that in the movie or in the episode in the series, but then the toy came out and it was Maskatron. I do remember that episode because he could look like anybody. He could look like, Steve Austin, the $6 Million Man. He could look like Oscar, his boss. He could change his identity. And he was played by John Saxon. Remember him in Halloween? He was the sheriff, the one girl's dad, the sheriff in Halloween with Michael Myers. I mean, he's been in a ton of movies, but I figured horror movie fans would pick him out from that one. Stephanie says, love the Crypt Keeper. T. All right, thank you. Even Johnny Quest had a mummy in one of his adventures, The Curse of Anubis, John says. Cool. Tom says, Larry Storch died about a year ago. He was almost 100 years old. Wow. Well, that was quite a lifespan, wasn't it? Patty says, Bionic Bigfoot was in 2 episodes. It was built by aliens as a security guard for their base. Yeah, he was also, was he not, in one of the Bionic Woman episodes? I think he was brought back for an episode of that. Or maybe that's one of the episodes you're talking about. Let's see. I don't remember any of them. Bionic Doohickeys, Bunhead says. Really? You don't remember those? Those were awesome shows. Al says, yes, there was a Groovy Ghoulies also on Saturday morning and was a cartoon you were thinking of. Okay, all right. I thought so. The Groovy Ghoulies 1970, 16 episodes. You're correct, Bryan Hogue. Now I have to go watch them all, Renee says. Awesome. The Groovy Ghoulies. I don't remember if they're any good, but I used to watch. I remember watching them. All right, right now it's 8:45, so I am going to put in a plug for the Chiller Night Escape Experience, horror-themed escape rooms. That is my business, my store in the Cranberry Mall in Venango County, Pennsylvania. There's the storefront, and there's a closer look at the storefront. You can see Jack Shadow's House of Terror off to the entrance to it anyways. Off to the left, and then in the center you can see the entrance to Zombie Outbreak, and then to the right will be the Witching Hour. Zombie Outbreak, Jack Shadow's House of Terror, the Witching Hour. Now, Zombie Outbreak is the one that's open right now that you can book, and if you'd like to book an escape room game, you can do that. They're 1 hour each, and it's recommended for 3 to 6 players. You can do it with 2. I've had couples go through it. Most couples don't make it. It is nice to have that third person, but some have. 814-209-8214. You can call that number, or you can book your appointment at chillernight.com. I will say one thing about... Wait, guys, hey, I'm going to try the zombie ad. Here we go.
Chiller Night Escape Experience presents Zombie Outbreak.
Wait, let's try this again. Oh my gosh. Alright, forget it. Just forget it. Just ruin this night for everyone. No, jeez. What was I going to say? Oh, hey, I wanted to mention too, this Sunday night, I'm going to be a guest on Sean Kelly's Into the Night podcast. He does this out of the Pittsburgh area. In fact, he's with the from the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, and that'll be from 8. Well, it says there 8:10 to 9:10. I'll be on there from I think 5 after 8 till about 5 after 9. So, but I'll be on there. At this thought I'd mention it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, or post a little bit more about that as it gets a little closer. But Deborah says the Mummy was also featured in an episode of Scooby-Doo and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ah! I wonder if they made him, well, Scooby-Doo is kind of a given, but I wonder, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I wonder how the monster was, if he seemed dangerous in that one. But it says, Johnny Quest wanted his mommy, but got the mummy instead. He was very neglected as a child. Those were cool cartoons back in the day. Renee says, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, the Pharaoh and the Return of the Pharaoh episodes. I don't remember those ones. I remember Electra Woman and Dinah Girl. Lots of neat shows back then. Patty says, Brian, you got to get rid of those gremlins. I know! They don't want me to advertise. They just don't want me to advertise. I don't know what it is. But the Witching Hour, speaking of that, the Witching Hour, it's a book now. You can't book now, even if you wanted to. Even if I wanted to let you in there, I really can't. But it is almost done. It won't be long. It won't be long. It is. When will it be open? I don't know. Maybe by the end of next month. It should be by next month. But it says, attention, Brian is having technical difficulties and we'll be right back. Yes, it's so unheard of for me to have technical difficulties. Renee says, Scrappy-Doo, Puppy Power. Yeah, I remember him. Renee says, Dynamite and Blue Falcon. Oh, yeah. Now you're bringing back some memories. Bonin says, Scooby-Doo, I wish him and Snoopy would have made a cartoon together. Too bad their agents couldn't agree. See, that's what always does it. D. Dittman says, I can't believe Johnny Quest was only for 1 season. Bummer. Really? I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have. It just seemed like that was such a big, well-known cartoon when I was a kid. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, we had a lot of, wow, lot of stuff here about the Mummy tonight. And about these other shows. You guys are, it's cool because you mention stuff, you bring up a lot of memories. Not, some of them I'm very vaguely remembering, and not entirely at all, but I know that I've either seen or heard, and that happens with the movies too. sometimes somebody will bring up a movie and it's like, I know I had to have seen it. Or I'll get just a very vague, memory of it. So I used to watch so much of this stuff growing up, so much of it, between Chiller Theater with Chilly Billy Cardell, growing up on that. Then there was this a day show, I think it was on Saturdays, called Science Fiction Theater, and you used to watch that. But, I mean, there was always Godzilla movies playing, monster movies. Between those and the Westerns, I was watching Westerns all the time with my dad. And just a lot of good TV back in the day. At least to me it was. It seemed like it was to me. But that's the stuff that I think of. You guys bring back a lot of memories while we're doing these shows, bringing up some of these titles. Deborah says, in Buffy, the episode was Inca Mummy Girl. Oh, yeah? Oh, so it was a female mummy? Inca Mummy Girl. Bonehead says, Mr. Jaws, gotcha. Figured Bonehead would be like a character named Jaws. Yeah? Yeah. Let's see, Bonehead says, some memories don't get brought up and mentioned like this unless you're in therapy. Oops, I digress. Yeah. A lot of neat things. Wow, all the, like I used to watch, Renee had mentioned Filmation earlier, and I remember those, all the various superhero shows they had, but then also on Saturday mornings they had the Lone Ranger cartoon, they had Tarzan, they had Zorro. Remember those? And they had Flash Gordon, they had the Flash Gordon ones. A lot of neat stuff. Dee says, what part of Pittsburgh are you from? My mom is from the Dormont area. Oh, okay, I'm very familiar with Dormont, but I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I lived in Pittsburgh throughout the 90s. And I'm from Northwest Pennsylvania, so I've lived north of Pittsburgh all my life, except when I was away in the service. And then I lived in Pittsburgh throughout the 90s, so went to school there, worked there at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, went to school at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. And now I live closer to Pittsburgh than I did when I was growing up. I'm about a little less than an hour's drive away from downtown Pittsburgh, where I'm at right now. However, my business, the Chiller Night Escape Experience, is actually north, back up in the area where I grew up in. So it's about 40 miles, or a 40-minute drive north of where I'm at, about 30 miles north of where I live. So, Bonehead says, this is the most fun you can have with a dysfunctional family, ain't it, eh? It sure is. Patty agrees. Yep, Bonehead. Wow, 8:53. I'll tell you what, this is such a... Oh, Bonehead says he's from Dormont, the Dormont area. That's cool. I would imagine then your mom would have, or maybe I'm not sure your age bracket there, but I know I grew up watching Chiller Theater with Chilly Billy Cardell, which of course was the inspiration of me doing my show. And I had Bill Cardell on one of my episodes. He was going to be on a series of 10 episodes in a row. And we were getting set to tape those when it was 6 days before I was going to go down to tape those. We were going to tape them all in segments, and then I was just going to edit them into their own separate episodes. And he said he couldn't do it because of some medical conditions. And then 6 weeks after that phone call, he had actually passed away. And but those are just such great memories I had growing up watching that stuff. John says, and now to wrap up our Tuesday night, again, the drum snare. You've been watching Chiller Night Live with Bryan Hogue. This is Crozak the Grand, reminding you, do your homework for next week's show. Until then, stay chilled and keep through it. Hey, speaking, thank you, Prozac the Grand. But it says, not Dormont, Brian. Dormant. Oh, Dormant. Oh. I was looking at it as Dormont. Okay. What do you think for next week? Phantom of the Opera? That's like one of the, you know, as far as the Universals, I was thinking, you know, why not? We got, and I don't know if we want to try to do The Bride. The Bride, you know, is such a, although it's such a great movie, the actual creature itself, there's not a whole lot. There's not a ton of stuff to do with that character. I will if you want to. Otherwise, I'm just thinking the Phantom of the Opera. That's another classic, so let me know. Deborah says, yes, Chili Billy was the greatest. He sure was. He gave me and my family lots of great Saturday night memories. Let's see. Renee says, thank you for the awesome live horror show today. You are very welcome, Renee. Steffi Press says, Scooby-Doo. Yeah, I used to watch that. Bonus, not one of my better jokes. Oh, I missed a joke. Went down like a lead balloon, he says. Okay. D says, my mom met and spoke to Bill Cardell many times. We love Chiller Theater. Ah, very cool, very cool. Nice guy, very nice guy. Phantom of the Opera, Stephanie says. All right. Stephanie says, my mom met the Cool Ghoul. The Cool Ghoul, ah, okay. Ghostin' Week, Patty says. What? Ghost next week? Is that what you meant? Well, why don't we do maybe the Phantom? Because that I brought that up, and then Stephanie agreed, and then but maybe we could now remind me next week, and then we could do Ghosts after that. Why not? We got to do The Bride too. Equal rights, you know. Bunhead says, all right. All right. Renee says Phantom of the Opera. John Wayne says extra hour. Okay. One of these nights, I don't have a problem doing that. I don't have a problem doing that. We could do something like that. That's not a problem. But what do you think? Next week we could do Phantom. And then if you want to do, I kind of like to keep all the monsters in a row. So if we do Phantom, and then if we do want to do Bride, we could do Bride. Okay, we could do Bride. We could make an hour out of it. I could make an hour out of this book. We could do that. Not just me, but with us. We could do that. So okay, so I say this: Phantom, The Bride of Frankenstein, and then we go to stuff like Ghosts or Bigfoot and stuff like that. So, with Patty's suggestion for like Ghosts. So, I say that. Phantom, The Bride, Frankenstein. Deborah says, Phantom, Phantom, Phantom. All right. Phantom Menace, Renee says. Tom says, see you all next week. All right, Tom, thanks for joining us. Ghouls and Ghosts. John Wayne says Phantom, Ghouls, and Ghosts. Okay, well, that could be 3 weeks from now, then. Bonus says Gene Simmons and his tongue are a horror story in and of themselves. Deborah says, what about Dr. Jekyll? Oh! Okay. It is 8:59. I like this. Okay, I want to keep the monsters all in a row, and then we'll go off on the paranormal stuff. So, Phantom, Bride of Frankenstein, and then Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I do like that idea. So let's do those 3 monsters in a row, and then Patty and all the rest. We'll take it into the other avenues with ghosts or UFOs or Bigfoot or whatever. So, but right now we'll keep all the monsters in a row. Bunny says, have a good night, everyone. All right, you too, Al. Thanks for joining us. Renee says, good night. Take care. Have a good dinner. Ah, someone's got a dinner they're going to, huh? All right, time for someone's dinner. So that sounds good. All right, guys and gals, guys and ghouls, thanks for joining me and each other tonight. So have a good night. Have a good chiller night. We'll see you next week.